I mean, it's effectively
there's no real difference. It's just I try to have a couple spots.
It's scooping.
If you're looking for any like
Yeah.
specific stuff, you maybe have better.
It's scooping with style.
What's up, gamers, and welcome back for more WotC-20. Today's matchup is going to be DragonPlume, or Dragon Tower, against Dark Tyranitar. You've probably heard of DragonPlume before. It was a base Neo deck. Very cool deck, very unique, status-oriented, some Dark Vileplume action, some Dragonite action, Fossil Dragonite, who we don't see a lot of, so should be a fun one. We'll get right into it with a Cleffa in the active along with a Sentret into an immediate fan club to pull out Larvitar and Cleffa for Dark Tyranitar. So always good to see a fan club in the opener and a Cleffa. Usually one goes and fetches the other. We'll see if there's an energy in hand to get that Sentret out of active to not give away a free Eek, and it looks like the Eevee is going to come down onto the bench as well, and Warp Energy will put Cleffa into the active and the Sentret on the bench. So good turn one. We'll pass it back over to DragonPlume here, and looks like a Cyclone on the Cleffa is going to pull in something that can't free retreat, guaranteeing a free Eek. Looks like Eevee is coming in, so gotta wonder if that free retreating Aquapolis Espeon is actually in the hand here instead of the Sentret, which could retreat by discarding that Warp. And now a Comp Search comes down. Looks like that's a Comp Search from the Classic Collection, and discarding a Metal Energy and an Oak. So discard cards like to discard cards. And probably gonna see a fan club out of that into a deck search. So this will take a second. In case you're not familiar with the Eevee that is down from Neo Discovery, it's a 50 HP Eevee instead of a 30 HP Eevee like the Chain Reaction Black Star promo Eevee is. And it can't free retreat, but it does have energy evolution. Whenever you attach an energy card to Eevee, flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for a card that evolves from Eevee that is the same type as the energy card attached. So it can use Darkness Energy to pull Umbreon. Obviously, Psychic would be good for Espeon. We know that this Dark Tyranitar build does splash some Psychic Energy. And it looks like Fan Club's pulling out two Oddishes, two Rocket Oddishes, so two attacks on those two Oddishes. Sleep Powder is just put them to sleep. Poison Powder is just poison them. So cool utility. Only one Grass Energy needed to do that. 50 HP. And looks like you got some Recycles in hand. Didn't get a good hand peep there, but we'll pass back to Dark Tyranitar. So Eek was passed up upon, keep that in mind. Trader is going to go and fetch what I assume will be, it's going to be Pupitar, or it's going to be Espeon, yeah, to get the free retreat going. So it looks like Dark Tyranitar is familiar with this deck. I believe this is not the first week this deck showed up to shop. I think it showed up the previous week, so being able to pull out Espeon and get that Warp Energy off of Sentret, keep it in hand, and Warp Bounce is going to be super important in breaking the lock that DragonPlume tries to set up. And another fan club? Yeah, that's a second fan club, pulls out another Eevee, so putting a lot of stock into those Espeon. And I assume we'll see a retreat. There is a Goldberry in hand as well as an ER. Warp is going to be bounced. And it's going to be some Eek on Eek attempts here. Would have liked to see the Psychic Energy that was in the hand to come down just to keep things on the board instead of throwing it back into the deck. But that will be a full Eek. Also did not commit the Goldberry to a Larvitar. Could have done that as well. So Rocket Dratini hits the board. DCE goes onto the Dratini, so it could use Wrap. I don't think we'll see it, but it is 10 and then Paralyze on flip. Elm comes down, so no more trainers for turn. We'll see how many evolution lines this can pull out. Dark Gloom has also hit the bench, so kind of funny when evolving into Dark Gloom, these Odysseys do not gain more HP, but Pollen Stench is going to be a relevant Pokemon power this game. Once per turn, you may flip a coin, and if heads, the defending Pokemon is confused. If tails, your active is now confused. So Pollen Stench can be used regardless of whether Dark Gloom is on the bench or active, and it is pivotal to Dragonite's Step-In ability and the loop that this deck tries to lock you into. So, can't really see hand for DragonPlume here, but they're getting set up. Does not attempt Eek again. And Furret now comes down. That's a big deal. So Furret and Espeon next to each other. Dark Pupitar also evolving, so getting set up just fine. Now a Goldberry comes down. Assumedly there's more than one in this deck. And it looks like there's another Furret in hand with a Cleffa. Now I'm not sure if energy removal is something that DragonPlume is packing here. If they are packing energy removal, targeting that warp would be important while it's down on the field and vulnerable. Eek again, it's a tails. So, back to DragonPlume, huge hand, kept it intentionally, we'll see what comes down. Another DCE, so if we see a breeder into Dratini here, oh, a Goldberry instead, you could see Dragonite come out early. Dark Vileplume goes in, didn't want a trainer lock just yet. And I assume this trader's going to go and fetch our boy Dragonite. I will wait until that's confirmed though. No, grabbing the Dragonair, so assumedly no breeder in hand, although breeder's definitely in this deck. Can definitely take advantage of breeder with Dark Vileplume. Not many decks can really benefit from breeder, but difficult in a 20 trainer limit. Alright, Dragonair comes down. So this is the Hyper Beam Dragonair, 80 HP. And Slam is 3 colorless. Flip 2 coins, 30 per heads. Hyper Beam is a flat 20, and if the defending Pokemon has any energy cards, choose one and discard it. So good against metal, good against anything really. And worth noting, that Oak just pitched Town V in a warp. The warp's not really a big deal, but the Town V could be. And Pokemon Park comes into play. So a big part of this deck strategy is to take Recycle Energy and use Recycle Energy as part of Dragonite's Step-In retreat loop. So what this does, Pokemon Park, is it turns those Recycle Energy, or any energy that you attach to your Pokemon, into a Potion Energy. It helps it heal 10, but I think it's only to the active. I'll just confirm that. And another trader. Oh, interesting. Okay, Pokemon Park only heals 10 if you attach to a benched Pokemon. Interesting. Alright, I didn't know it had the bench limitation on it. It's also the first time I've seen that card put on a table before. And remember, Pokemon Park benefits both sides while it's in play, so kind of combos well with the Espeon, honestly. If you don't have an attach for the turn, you can just bounce something on the bench that has 10 on it. And another Dark Gloom down off of that trader. And now we're going to trainer lock. So that Stadium is going to stay put. So worth noting that Pokemon Park still synergizes well with Recycle Energy for DragonPlume. They just have to be careful of sequencing and making sure the Dragonite is on the bench when doing the attach for Recycle. And that is a good Eek. Alright, a Fighting Energy comes down for turn for Dark Tyranitar. Dark Pupitar getting there. Dark Tyranitar evolves now. And that Pokemon Park is going to lock out the Rocket Hideout as well as the Energy Stadium that is in the Dark Tyranitar deck. Furret, kind of a good answer to Dark Vileplume because you can't play trainers, but you can throw them back in your deck for energy. Looks like a DCE and a Furret will go back into the deck to find another fighting energy. So I assume once there's 3 attaches, it's just going to come in and start swinging. Also worth noting that Fossil Dragonite does have a fighting resistance. We'll see how much that matters here. Tails on the Eek. What's going on with that Cleffa there? Checking that it's a Cyclone, I guess, lining it up. And another Dratini comes down. Both sides looking pretty evenly / smoothly set up here. Third DCE comes down for that Dratini. I wouldn't mind seeing some aggression. Maybe the Hyper Beam tries to knock the warp off the Cleffa. You're not going to want that warp around. Instead, we're eking, but that is a Tails. So 2 cards now in hand for Dark Tyranitar. The fighting energy we saw Scavenger hunted earlier attached down for turn, and Eek is going to be good. So the DCE going right back in the deck. Full 7 coming out. Another Dragonair off the top. We'll see if this is an evolution, and it is. So there's a Breeder stuck in hand. Can't use those with Dark Vileplume here. So turns will start going quicker. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of DCE. 2 Dragonair available here. No more trainer cards coming down. This should speed turns up a bit because of that.
He said, oh, I think it's worth a little more. This stuff now to get the CS.
Are we going to Eek or are we going to start swinging? No, it looks like Dark Vileplume is going into the active, so Pollen Stench is going to confuse one of the actives here. Assumedly there is a Dragonite in hand to bail out DragonPlume from confusing itself. But not really needed because now that Dark Vileplume is confused, trainers can be played again. So it's a fun toggle. Can't super rely on it just because, you know, if Cleffa got confused, then you're just chilling there. Can't play this Comp Search if you don't hit your own Dark Vileplume with confusion. But I assume that Computer Search is gonna go and grab a Dragonite. Gonna have to figure out what to pitch. It's gonna be a Cleffa and a Breeder. Yeah, Breeder's definitely not useful right now. And it will be the Dragonite. Don't have to show card for Comp Search, but I assume that Dragonite's just going to immediately come down anyway. So, if you're not familiar with Fossil Dragonite, it has 100 HP, so it's pretty bulky. It's got no weakness, a fighting resistance that will matter in this matchup, a retreat cost of 1 as we were talking about recycle energy shenanigans earlier, and its power step in says once per turn before you attack. If it's on your bench, you can switch it with your active, so that is exactly what we'll see here for Dark Vileplume. Now that it's on the bench, Dark Vileplume is no longer confused. And Slam from Dragonite is flip 2 coins, deal 40 for each head, so that's going to do 0, 40, or 80, very swingy. Curious if we would have seen, I think there's a Gust in hand for DragonPlume, that would have been interesting. To see what it would have gone for. We hit heads on the Cleffa for the baby rule, and double tails, so Slam does nothing. Feels bad. Attach for turn, now it's back to Dark Tyranitar. Now, even though there's not going to be a lot of damage done to Dragonite, you're going to mill him pretty quick. Stadium tried to come down, we can't do that with Dark Vileplume in play though. So, what are the playable cards here? 2 Dark Tyranitar, full bench so you can't put down Sentret. Not much to do, honestly, with the trainer lock up. You can slow attach with Furret, get as much fighting energy as you want. You do have a Goldberry. You can try like hell to mill here. Stalling, getting off some big Mountain Smashers is an option. I don't dislike it. And it looks like we are going to go for an Eek. It's free after all. Dragonite doesn't have a baby rule. Another Dragonite comes down, so now the Dragonites can two-step with each other, put on some tango music, and we'll see if Recycle Energy ends up mattering, but lots of good utility off of these special energies in format. I'd say just go for another Slam, and that is exactly what we're going to see here. Gotta hit that baby rule again. Does. Double Tails again? Not this time. One heads, that is a downed Cleffa. We take our first prize of the match, so I assume prizes are going to start rolling a little faster with both sides set up. New active does need to be picked here. I assume it's going to be Espeon. Yep, always put up your free retreaters. Dark Pupitar Evolution. Attaching there instead of really juicing up the Dark Tyranitar with the Gold Bear. Got a DCE in hand. Not really sure. I guess the DCE is for Furret and Espeon to pivot their attacks, but you obviously want Tyranitar, which is coming right on in. It's going to be able to roll 4 die, but man, that minus 30 fighting resistance is going to make this a slog. 2 gold berries, 2 big boys. I guess you could fling to take out the benched Cleffa for a prize. Or you're committing to the path of mountain smashing your way and decking out the opponent. Now remember that Cleffa that went to the bin did have a Warp Energy on it, so no Warp bouncing with Espeon if this Dark Gloom lock decides to confuse you. You can just step in and toggle the 2 Dragonite right now, so very dangerous. And it is going to be Fling. Fling onto the Dark Vileplume. So nothing to the Dragonite because of resistance. But that Dark Vileplume is now looking at some good damage on it.
That's why I stopped. I was actually going to roll
Guess you can always fling away the Cleffa later. Alright, there's a Warp Energy. Probably should have gone for the Pollen Stench before warping it. Unless, well, yeah, DragonPlume probably wants to attempt to put trainers online for their turn, so this makes sense. Not sure if that was heads or not. Looks like trainers are now back on. And that turns on Gust, Trader, and that's it. There's a Dragonite also in hand. So I assume we're going to see a Gust here, and then, what, you try to high roll the Furret. Everything is going to be going to require 2 head flips for Slam from Dragonite to knock out. So kind of brutal rolling with Slam as your primary damaging attack. Trader's going to put Dragonite in. I guess we'll pull out. Let's see. Dark Vileplume is at risk of being knocked out. So, yep. Dark Vileplume to hand so you can set another one up. Keep that trainer lock going. And I do think the RNG Fest will eventually be won by Dragonite if it decides to trade with Tyranitar. Pupitar comes in instead. Step in is going to toggle all of the trainers back off. 30 damage dice goes flying. Dragonite comes in with more energy than I know what to do with it for. Oh, did the video just skip weird? I don't know. Yeah, probably didn't have to do the warp there. You actually probably could have slammed the warp on the Vileplume on your bench just to make Fling Away have to hit it 2 more times. Probably splitting hairs there though, now that there's 2 Dark Vileplume online. Not sure. I guess that was double tails. Yeah, neither. I don't think both Dragonites used both of their step-ins, so you could have stepped in the first one and stepped in the second one to put the warp on the Vileplume for a heal. But that's okay. It's a very hard deck to pilot, or at least it's a unique play style that I wouldn't be familiar with. Warp comes down, which is very, very good with that Espeon down, because Warp bouncing your way out of any Gloom shenanigans is nice to have in the pocket. Of course, Gloom is nowhere to be seen right now. Gus, DCE, and a Pokemon Center is in the hand of Dark Tyranitar, and now so is that Warp with energy returned from Espeon. Fling Away takes a prize by knocking out Dark Vileplume, so teeny tiny hand for DragonPlume. Looks like we're going for a slam, just big boys hitting each other. It's going to do 40. That'll pop the berry. And pass back. 90 HP, looking like a big deal break point here too, because Dragonite can't high roll it next turn. Cleffa comes down, and Fur is going to send back. Let's see. Warp and DCE. I guess you can always go get the Warp with Furret, so sending it in is fine for a fighting. Gonna Fling Away again here. And I assume that's going on to the bench Tyranitar. It is. And we'll see if it's going to go to, yep, going to take the Cleffa for another prize. So prizes are, let's see, 5 to 4, looks like. Hard to tell with those plum purples.
There we go. I type in Orson Welles, the first thing you show.
And straight into a slam. Tails, tails. Brutal. There's a gold berry in hand now. Definitely going to want that to come down once the Dark Vileplume's off the board. Probably looking at a Fling Away here. Alright, Dratini comes down. And now we will see a Cyclone Energy go to Dark Vileplume on the bench, which with Pokemon Park will heal it for 10, just pushing it out of KO range in perfect math from the next Fling Away from Dark Tyranitar. So that's a big deal. Slam from Dragonite is going to deal 1 head, so 40, which also awkward math means Dark Tyranitar has 50 HP before being knocked out. So a little awkward on both sides, but there is a gold berry in hand, so drilling down that Dark Vileplume seems to be the play. And a little bit of thinking, looks like we're probably going to see lots of Furreting, lots of Espeoning, but mostly lots of Furreting. Scavenger Hunt away 2 cards. It's going to pull out a Fighting Energy. That's probably going to the bench Dark Tyranitar. And it does. So both sides have their primary attacker powered up fairly quickly, online, swing at each other, and then also an extra one ready to go on the bench. So the attrition is real. And a little bit of thinking, probably considering maybe going even for the Dratini. Nope, going straight for the Dark Vileplume. Got to get that Goldberry out of hand. And of course, if the Dratini were to evolve, 80 HP on Dragonair. Pretty bulky anyway. It's not something you'd be able to still two-shot with 2 Flingaways. Requires 2 as Dratini, 3 as Dragonair. Another Slam coming. Looks like it does 40, so that Dark Tyranitar is now 10 away from knockout. Now the Pokemon Center in hand, totally useless with Dark Vileplume out and Hay Fever. You'd hate to lose 4 attaches, but the whole hand is trainers except for that Warp. Alright, energy returning 2 fighting energy and instead going for the Mountain Smasher here. And it's 1 heads, so 1 card gets milled off the top, no damage. And a Cleffa goes to the bin, so not a big deal for DragonPlume. You can see the recycle energy in hand. So by not just taking the knockout on that Dark Vileplume, it's going to start slowly healing over time here. Have to assume there's not a lot of fighting energy left in the deck for it to go get if we're saving fighting energy. And it was double tails anyway. Well, that's awkward because the Tyranitar is still alive, but it's not 1 attach away from being able to knock off that Vileplume. So now at least there's a Warp in hand. Next turn, you can go and bring in the other Dark Tyranitar, fling away, and take out the Dark Vileplume. So that's helpful. Mountain Smasher. 1 heads again, 1 mill. Takes out a Trader. Alright, DragonPlume's hand starting to grow again. Just going for slams. And it looks like there was 1 heads off camera, big knockout. Puts in a Cleffa, and we're at, let's see, I think we're at 4-4 on the prizes. So they're getting there. Oh wow. 5 fighting energy down, so are we going to see a Mountain Smasher? Or are we going to see a fling away to knock out Dark Vileplume? Certainly the Vileplume gets knocked out. Getting energy off the board. Enable your Goldberry. Unless the Goldberry got Scavenger Hunted back into the deck, I don't think it did. I couldn't quite see it there. Okay, we're Mountain Smashing. Alright, going for the mill plays. That is 1 heads, damn. Discards an Oddish. That Oddish was a pretty good snipe considering there's a Dark Gloom and a Dark Vileplume in hand. Now, you have to start wondering, if you're DragonPlume, do you retreat with your Warp just so that the Dark Vileplume can bounce the Recycle back? And you can heal it again. Although, if Tyranitar wanted to knock it out, they could have, so there was a change in philosophy there. 40 to Dark Tyranitar. Now, I would think you want that Goldberry online because if this Dark Tyranitar goes down, not many attacking options left. For it, let's see, putting away a Cleffa and a Tyranitar, not that it has to be shown. Pulling out a Psychic Energy, now Espeon's online. So I guess the idea here would to be get enough heads that you mark some meaningful damage onto Dragonite, and then Espeon can clean it up with Damage Blast. Damage Blast is a good attack, but first, Mountain Smasher. Alright, 2 heads out of 5. Not ideal rolls, so it marks 10 on the Dragonite. Now the reason why marking Dragonite with damage is good here is because Damage Blast is 30. Alright, mills a Cleffa and a Gust. That Gust mill's probably pretty nice. But yeah, Damage Blast, you're probably familiar with it from Aquapolis Espeon, but you flip a number of coins equal to the number of damage counters on the defending, and it'll do 30 plus 10 for each head. So the bigger the defending Pokemon, the better the Damage Blast becomes. And now 2 Recycle are down. So I can definitely start healing up the Dark Vileplume more. Not really needed though. My gosh. Tough rolls with Slam. Now do we see Fling Away? No, we're just going to go for bigger and bigger smashers, it looks like. Yeah, DragonPlume, really low on cards. 6. Oh my gosh, 1 heads. The mill is struggling. Takes out an Igglybuff. Looks like there's 3 cards in deck for DragonPlume. Gonna have to find a way to close this out quick, but there's 4 prizes that need to be taken. Another Recycle. Puts Dark Vileplume out of KO range. Alright, so it looks like the idea here was to leave Dark Vileplume alive so that Town V can't be used. Dark Tyranitar will get off another Mountain Smasher. That could be deck out.
Hey, come over here. Look at this. Hey, come over here and look at this.
It's gonna put 2 cards in. There goes the Goldberry. That's definitely not the plan anymore, so gonna try to just Mountain Smash to victory here. That might be the last Fighting Energy in deck based on the deck peep. Attached to Tyranitar. It's going to be 7 now.
That might be man 5.
I think we're going to see a deck out. That's crazy. All right, that's 1 heads, 2 heads, 3 heads, 4 heads, 5 heads, 6 heads. 7? Did I miss one? That's going to be game. That's deck out. So always an option for Dark Tyranitar to go to. Brutal flips for both sides. Just total RNG fest with the attacks. So great game, great piloting. And thanks for watching.
The single blizzard had hit you. So I lost two pretty bad. that happens. I wanted to know.
It's 40 damage. You may discard all of it. If you do,
But it has to go through. That was
When I hear that you make a mistake, or because honestly, when you said that, I thought they already used it. This one's first.
Yep, first.
Yeah.
I was so I'm not going to.
Just like
Or here, because WotC is recognized Pokemon.
Art for 27. I said
Yeah, it's crazy because
that was my